All right. Well, we are live again. This time talking about Georgia football. So this week, what was it? Monday or Tuesday?
I think it was Monday when the schedule came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Monday.
So the rest of the SEC schedule came out. All the games except the UMass game, which is the second to last game of the season, are flex games, meaning that the time hasn't been set. It's to be determined. The thing that I do know about all these games, by the way, before I got ahead of myself here, the UMass game's at 12:45, so that's the only. Georgia's only going to play 2 noon games all year, which is pretty nice. The first one being against Clemson and Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta, and then UMass at 12:45, which I mean, that game does deserve the noon treatment. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Yeah.
So, but the games that are flexed, well, let's just go in order here. So Clemson's at noon, Tennessee Tech's at 2. On the road at Lexington, that's a 7:30 game. On the road at Alabama, that's a 7:30 game. Auburn homecoming, which we'll touch on a little bit, that's a flex game. I would imagine, given how the season set up, Georgia should probably be through 3-1, 4-0, depending on what happens against Alabama. Auburn probably will be undefeated at that point or have one loss looking at their schedule. So that might be a night game. Then honestly, the Georgia Auburn game should be a night game, my personal opinion. Mississippi State is a flex game. That's going to be 3:30. I mean, Mississippi State is terrible. Texas is another flex. That's going to be a night game. It's going to be 7:30. Ole Miss, that's another flex. I think that's going to be 7:30. I think we can.
I was going to stop just 1 second. The game, I think you said Ole Miss twice. So right?
No, Mississippi State is. We played Mississippi State and Ole Miss this year.
All right.
Yeah, so Ole Miss is probably going to be a night game, I would imagine, and then Tennessee is the next or the last flex game. I don't know. That one is a toss-up. That could be a 3:30 or a 7:31, but I think Ole Miss is a 7:30. Here's the thing. Georgia's going to get a ton of ABC primetime games. They're going to be – I mean, they're the lead for ESPN's coverage of the SEC now since they bought the entire package. So you might as well just get used to seeing Georgia on ABC almost every Saturday. And honestly, those 3:30 games, I think those games are going to be on ABC as well. I think they're going to be the lead into the night game. So, yeah, so I wouldn't be shocked if most of all Georgia games are on ABC this year.
Well, I think the noon kickoff for Georgia is a thing of the past, at least for right now. But the other interesting thing is, which I think is from a TV standpoint, whether whatever, I think it makes a ton of sense. I looked 5 out of the 12 games Georgia's playing is to be determined. Right? So we're gonna wait and see what happens. And see what other hot matchups might be that were unexpected, and they leave that kind of. But more than likely, like you said, Georgia's going to be playing in front of a national audience. Almost every single Saturday.
Yeah,
and that's a credit to Kirby and athletic department and university and players, and I mean it's incredible. Just and from a recruiting standpoint. It's unbelievable exposure. So, no, I think the Vince Dooley days of people having to go to church on Sunday, being able to drive back, those days are gone. It's going to be 3:30 or a night game.
Right. I don't think unless something terrible happens down the road. I know we're sitting here in the beginning part of June pontificating about how Georgia's season is supposed to go. Georgia should have every chance to have the 7:30 games unless the opponent that they're playing isn't a good team. Right. I.e. Mississippi State. If Tennessee has a down year, If Texas isn't what everyone thought they were, those things can happen. Don't be surprised if all three of those things happen. Auburn Auburn has a pretty easy schedule to start out with. Everyone's going to be probably talking about the turnaround that Hugh Freeze done. I think that's going to be a prime time 7:30 ball game. And we can both. I know you don't care as much, but I'm more on social media than you are. But Auburn,
if you don't hit it at all, you're more than I am. So
yeah. Well, Auburn fans getting all torn up that we scheduled homecoming for the Georgia Auburn. It's really silly. First of all, homecoming is not what it is. Honestly, what's so special about homecoming at Georgia at all? And maybe that's an indictment on Georgia, but is there anything great that's like really special about homecoming other than
now come on. I really dig the old cheerleaders in there 1950, but they're getting fewer and far between. But the older cheerleaders down there on the sidelines,
yeah, that's funny.
It's not funny. I kind of like to see them down there.
I guess I don't know. I just I don't know. There's not anything spick and span or great about it.
Well, we were never in a fraternity or a sorority. A lot of people were into that stuff, right?
Yeah,
yeah, and so we weren't. So I'm not going to piss on homecoming, but here's the thing: it doesn't really matter because this is a whole new era, right? And people were trying to fill out the schedule. It wasn't like we thought we were just going to take a W, because I'm going to tell you something. My ass is always scared of Hugh Freeze, because I think Hugh Freeze, out of all the coaches in SEC that might have Kirby's number on offense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look what happened last year.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And Hugh Freeze is a good offensive coach, and I think Kirby respects the shit out of him. So all those Auburn fans who might be tuning in, I hate you, but don't take it as a slight. Shit, man. Y'all won't.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Crane did a whole 8-minute segment on his show about it. It was really kind of silly to me because he's like, "Well, that could have been Mississippi State." First of all,
could it have been? That's my question.
Maybe, but we scheduled. Look, whenever Kentucky was like undefeated, number 8 in the country, we had them for homecoming. And everyone knew that Kentucky was going to be good that year. Like, we didn't know what exactly they were going to be, but we knew they were going to be good. Right. And Georgia scheduled them still for homecoming. It has nothing to do. And he's like, "Oh, Kirby would never do something like that. It's hard to believe. Like, he's a master motivator, not giving that. What are you talking about?"
Dude, over the years, you know how many times we chose Vanderbilt as our homecoming and got fucking beat?
Oh, I know.
I tell you, I was there in the 90s. It happened.
Yes, I'm very well aware of that. So
relax.
Yeah, them getting upset about it is really crazy to me. And honestly, I think they're the ones that move the home. They're not homecoming, but they're the ones who move the fucking schedule around. And by the way,
I cried about playing us and Bama back-to-back weeks.
I just want to point this out because I know Auburn is, they're Auburn and they have their own mantra and they're so special and great. But an Auburn man cried about playing Alabama and Georgia in back-to-back weeks. Well, guess what? Georgia's got to do Alabama and Auburn back-to-back weeks, and you don't hear anyone crying on this side of the river. I really don't. It blows my mind how they have cried. They have cried about everything about this rivalry, and then they get really upset over something that is so meaningless. The players were posting it and like, "All right, bet. What are you'll suck. You haven't come into Sanford Stadium and beat us since 2005. What are you talking about? It's been it's going to be 20 years."
Yeah. Whatever. If it fires them up, fantastic. I don't worry about it, all that kind of shit. can he match up and play? And do we show up? Do they show up? And do you have the better players? And I put Kirby, Hugh Freeze scares me, but I think Kirby and the staff will handle it. But I don't know why you take offense of it. It's just, bullshit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, we'll take this moment to say like and subscribe. And then follow us on Terminus Sports on Twitter, Terminus Sports on _ ATL on Twitter and on Instagram and on TikTok. We're all on social media now. And check out Terminus Sports. When you just type it up on Google and the blog will pop up. And then also subscribe. We need subscribers. We're getting people to come in, watch our videos. Doesn't take that much to just click a little button. And it sure would be nice because I'm broke and my baby needs new shoes. So
we would we're begging at this point. Hit the subscribe because it does matter. So
yeah, it does. It absolutely does matter. Plus, I mean, once football season starts, we're going to go twice a week with Jordan, the recap. Well, preview and predictions, and then a recap of the game, maybe 3 times depending on the game, and then also Braves content, which. Got to tell you, I don't know if I would be tuning in either right now about the Braves, but that's another topic for another day. So just remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And comment. I don't care. Whatever you got to do. Just help us out. All right. You follow it more. I have a wider view of recruiting than you follow it. I look at it from a 10,000-foot view. You're more of a what do you call it, micro level look at it.
I don't know if that's true. I'm
more
not
so than me.
Well, but no, I follow it a little bit, and one of the things that you and I were talking about the other day is I think Kirby has this. He's starting to get the schedule figured out, and we're like we were talking about Georgia getting exposure. And Georgia being the top, 1, 2, 3, 4 team in the country, the majority of the years he's been here, I think he's starting to get this down a little bit because, you see Ohio State and all these other schools are like, oh, Georgia's number 6. Well, Georgia doesn't really start recruiting to the summertime, and Kirby holds these camps. You don't get an invite unless they're seriously interested in you, and then it's almost like the cream of the crop kind of rises and they make offers. And so I don't know, we get to pick and choose, and Kirby seems to have this stuff figured out. But some of the things that I've noticed just recently, we recruited a kid out of Valdosta. I think his name is Todd Robinson, who is listed as an athlete. I think he's played a little bit of everything, like 5'11", 195. And I think he's been playing running back. But Georgia, I can almost promise you they're going to turn him into a defensive back. He does play defensive back. And you know what Kirby can do with defensive back. So that's the other one of the recruits that committed recently. There's another defensive lineman out of the state of Georgia. I think the last name is Taylor, and he was a 4-star recruit. So point is, Georgia starts hitting recruiting really heavily this time of year. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see some future announcements. I think there's some silent commits that are out there. And so I wouldn't expect Georgia to be at number 6 very long. I think the way Kirby does it is kind of lays in the weeds and filters these kids through a system, and he's got a calendar for that. And these kids are wanting to come to these camps. And so it's quite interesting to see these people who are doubting that Georgia's going to be in the top 4 of recruiting and, they're number 6. Well, just hold on. We're not done yet. We're not anywhere close to done. So
Right.
That would be the updates as far as I have on recruiting. He's a hell of a recruiter, and everybody knows that.
Right. And I, not to be a complete stalker, but I did, I go for my walks on the morning. And I walked by Sanford Stadium, and Kirby's having basically sophomore, juniors, freshmen, some. It's the high school recruiting camp. I don't know what you call it, but it's an invite only camp. And he's there, dead center, 50-yard line, coaching. And I don't know how many coaches do that, really. But he's out there doing it, and it's June. He should be on vacation, really, right now. And he's working with high school kids. So recruiting definitely matters. I think that's why, you see Georgia's success and why Georgia's going to stay successful for a long time. So that's why I don't follow it as much as I used to, because I know it's all going to be taken care of by Kirby. So I notice whenever
it's a nice peace of mind that you have, but I agree with you. But I do find it interesting how Kirby can take. We've talked about it before, and that's one of the reasons he's probably, people saying best coach in college football after Saban retired is, like you said, he's standing on the 50-yard line, hands on hips. What you told me,
right?
Right. You're seeing these kids junior year, sophomore year, running around. You only get invited, so he's watching them, and he'll take a 3-star recruit that very few people are looking at because he sees something, right? And it's not just him, but it's I'm sure other people on the staff, but he's really good at evaluating stuff like that. So we're lucky, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of unlucky, getting off the recruiting topic, Brent Key, Tech people are really fired up, and I guess we should talk about this because it kind of puts everything with Tech in a really nice. It puts a bow on it, really nice bow on it. So he was at some donor meeting to rally up the fan base, which I didn't know they even had that. And he said that
you didn't think they did that at Tech?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know how many they had. I didn't know they had enough to form a group. But essentially, what he said was it's the worst thing in the world to lose to Georgia. Here's the exact quote. There's nothing I hate more in the world. It's probably the only thing I actually hate. When I say hate, like truly despise everything about it. I really do. And, it fired up Tech people on social media. And, to me, it doesn't bother me. I just at this point, I kind of find it amusing. It's just sad to me where the Tech program is, that just saying, I really hate Georgia, that fires them up because they got nothing else. And they're in a dying conference. And they think that, losing to Georgia by 8 points is something when Georgia didn't even give its best effort. Probably the worst game outside of the Alabama game. Honestly, I could have an argument that the Tech game was probably worse than the Alabama game, execution and effort-wise. And Georgia was never a doubt that Georgia was going to lose that game. But Tech is taking that as a moral victory. And that's why the game is moved to 7:30 on Black Friday. You're just not – you're not who you think you are, but you think you are something. And it's just really sad, and I feel bad for the Techies at this point.
Well, I know I've probably told this story on this podcast before, but they really, truly hate us. I worked after I got out of high school. I was working a summer job where we were redoing the heating and air in one of the dorms down at Tech. Every stall I went into was all about Georgia, like written stuff about Georgia. And I was like, wow, they really hate us. But I think it's kind of like, I don't know, because they're living in an era that does not exist. They are not relevant. They will not be relevant. I think Brent Key is throwing out red meat, which I don't blame him. But he, by the way, kind of talking about this, Joe Hamilton is on 680 The Fan, former Georgia Tech quarterback, runner-up for the Heisman. Got a lot of respect as a ball player for Joe Hamilton. But he lives in the same – you know what he said? He said, just based on history – I'm verbatim, and I'm not quoting him exactly, but Georgia Tech should be 8-4. Comparing us to teams like Wake Forest and Syracuse, it's kind of he found that insulting. But I got to be honest with you, Joe.
That's where you're at.
That's where you're at. It's where you've been out at for what, 15 years?
Longer than that.
20?
Yeah.
I mean, y'all were good back when you played and back when Brent Key played, but sorry, guy, that was a long time ago. And Tech and your athletics department sucks. Nobody wants to go to downtown Atlanta and be fucking mugged, and it's a shithole. And to go down there with a bunch of fucking nerds, I mean, I'm sorry, but Brent Key can say whatever. I know it's just red meat, so I don't take it. I almost look at it as patting him on the head.
That's kind of how I like rub the dog's belly. I mean, that's really how I look at it. It's really, but it's sad because they're not even on. They are on our radar when we have to play them.
They're not. Kirby doesn't want to lose to them, but he is not looking to kick the shit out of them because there's at this point. Looking at the crossover, right?
Yeah,
there's a ton of crossover.
I mean, we're being really honest. Brett Key should thank his lucky stars that he got Buster Faulkner.
Oh yeah.
I wish Georgia had Buster Faulkner. If we're just being honest, and we're sitting here, we're having truth telling moment, and we're in the trust tree.
No, I'm with you.
I like Buster Faulkner a lot better than Mike Bobo. Crucify me, I don't care. But
I would like Buster Faulkner to have his fingerprints on some of these game plans
for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just really sad where they're at, and they live in this world where they are Wake Forest, they are Boston College. That's where they're at, and
if they don't, but the guys that played there, which he did, Brett Key, and so did Joe Hamilton. They played together, I think. They don't see it that way, and I appreciate the denial. I really do, and I know you don't want to admit it. But that is where your program is, dude. Your program is as close to being irrelevant as it could possibly be. It's in a shitty conference, and it's a shitty team in a shitty conference.
For sure.
So, it bite me in the ass if Georgia loses Tech next year, but I don't see in any universe that would happen.
That would not happen. I mean, I know if you live in the North Atlanta suburbs, it's a lot easier to get to Tech than it is to Athens. I know what a haul it is to Athens. Almost like the Enchanted Forest coming through.
That's a little bit of an inside joke. We lived in a neighborhood where the guy next door to me that was an implant from Chicago told me it was just so much easier to get to a Tech game, and there was very little traffic. And I looked at it and I said, that may be for a reason, man. Very little traffic.
Well, if we're being honest, it takes an hour and a half to get to Tech, and it takes an hour and a half to get to Athens. So it's exactly.
I would much rather take the drive to Athens than.
Well, obviously,
yeah.
But
anyway, off topic.
Yeah, and I get that, and I know that Tech. The day, if we're people like me who enjoy this type of stuff, the day that Tech started becoming irrelevant was the day that Georgia hired Vince Dooley. And Dan McGill got in charge and got in the ear of Vince Dooley and said, hey, Tech is not as – they don't have as many alumni. We have tons of alumni, and we can get money, and we can make this into a super program. But you got to trust me, and I got to drive you everywhere across Georgia, and we'll get bukus of money. That's the day when that conversation happened. I don't know, probably somewhere 1964 or 1965. When that happened, that was the day Tech died. Right there. And ever since then, it has never been the same. It's never been the same. So they're going to have to come up somehow, some way to get on that footing. And the athletics program is so stupid. And I got the administration. I mean, our friend at Dog Post, Dean Legge, he talks about this a lot. The administration is stupid.
That's the problem. I mean, there's lots of problems. But
and you could. Hey, look, Tech. Now this has really become a thing. I didn't know we were going to go this long on it, but now I'm free talking about it. Tech always wants to be academically superior, and so athletics takes a back seat to academics. Well, guess what? Georgia, it's all on equal footing, and guess what? Georgia's now surpassed Tech in academics. So, and clearly has passed them in athletics. We beat them in everything, I think, except one sport. I think it was women's basketball was the only thing we lost to them. So you tell me. Also, hey, our engineering program that we just started back in the 90s is now starting to surpass as one in the rankings is now one spot below Tech.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So they got major issues on their hand, not just on the athletic field. It's all also as the university standpoint, and your front porch is the athletics and it's the football program. That's not good.
Well, that's my thing is like if you go to, I mean, I guess it's whatever people want in life, but to me, living at Tech and going to school down there would honestly like be like a prison for me. All that downtown concrete and there's no friggin', in Georgia you can go lounge out in front of North Campus and in front of the library. It's really nice. Up down there, it is. I don't know what they have going for them. If it's not the academics, which is if you're telling me our engineering department is only a couple spots below theirs, I agree with you. They're in a lot of trouble, and I wish them the best. I really do, because I do think from us that like tradition, we'd like for them to be relevant, but unfortunately, you're just not relevant right now. And so that's the reason when Brent Key says things like he said, I don't get my nose out of joint. I think it's cute. He's throwing red meat to the masses, trying to raise money. He's doing what he can, and I respect him. But we're going to kick your ass. That's
Yeah,
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I don't know how obviously they're back-to-back champions. They could win 3 out of the next 4 national championships. I don't know what you do. Like, it's the same thing as Auburn. I don't know what like a program like
Auburn's in a tough spot, man.
Auburn's in a tough spot,
They
but
got a coach for it though. Transfer portal.
that's the thing. Auburn has navigated a whole hell of a lot better than Tech has.
Yeah,
and they figured it out. So we'll see. I think Auburn will always be head and shoulders above Tech, so that I don't think we have to really worry about that. All right. Well, I think that's it on Georgia stuff for now. I mean, I don't think there's anything really all that exciting happening. It's June. Hopefully, there's not. July, whenever we come down, we got SC Media Days. There'll be a lot to talk about there, and previewing that. So stick around. We'll have something, I'm sure, to come. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks there'll be something that happens. So remember, like and subscribe. Terminus Sports ATL _ATL. So all social media platforms and what's the other? All social media. Yeah, all social media platforms. Look at that. All right. We'll see you on the other side.
All right.